How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So today we're looking at the 2024 projected batting order on opening day. Now, it's a lot different than 2023. I know you guys are very excited about that. No more leaning into the Giancarlo Stanton bounce-back seasons. We have Juan Soto, my friends. This changes everything. This changes how the Yankees can go about really situating a batting order that leverages absolute Hall of Fame talent. Having Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, the talk of the town is going to be, how do you actually situate those two guys? Where do you put them? How do you leverage their qualities? And I think that, Ryan, you probably have a good idea of how we're going to do that. Some people are totally against the idea of having Juan Soto as your leadoff hitter. I have my idea about this. Obviously, I have my idea about, where Judge and Soto should be hitting respectively. We know that. A lot of Padres fans will say he wants to be batting third, which is fine. Like Soto third, Judge second, Judge third, Soto second. Does it really freaking matter? They both get on base a freaking ridiculous amount. They both hit home runs at a ridiculous pace, and they're both just tremendous ball players. So we know that's going to be a gauntlet. The top half of this batting order, my friends, is going to be an absolute gauntlet for opposing pitchers to get through. It is going to be incredible to watch. The walks, the home runs, the hitting with runners in scoring position. And let's not mistake it, the bottom half of this order got significantly better too. So we're going to break it down, go through one by one what we think this lineup could look like. But Ryan, before we dive into the good stuff, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. As you mentioned, looking at this lineup, right? Like, there are two anchors in this lineup. That's something that this team has sorely needed for a very long time. Two guys, you stare at them and you say, these two guys are going to be good no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as they're playing, as long as they're in the lineup, they're going to hit. And they're going to hit a ton, right? In 2022, right? Like, the Yankees, could you think of when the Yankees had Matt Carpenter and Aaron Judge together? Like, you scored 1 billion runs. Like, it was like you didn't know how to not score runs, right? And not saying that, he's going to put up a 200 WRC plus like Matt Carpenter did. Juan Soto's Juan Soto, right? And it puts less pressure on a guy like Anthony Rizzo to be that running mate with Aaron Judge. If you remember the 2022 team, Rizzo was second on the team in home runs. If you look at the 2023 team, Glaber was second on the team, I believe, in home runs, or at least the second best hitter on that team. These are both guys who are now your 4 or 5 or 6 hitters, right? So I think that's a big difference. And you're relying on a lot of guys who you're expecting to get more out of in 2024, which is a concern, right? Like, that's obviously, it's Alex Verdugo's no sure thing to get better. Looking at Anthony Rizzo, he's no sure thing to get better. Looking at Giancarlo Stanton, no sure thing to get better. DJ LeMahieu, same thing, right? Austin Wells, no sure thing to stick. Anthony Volpe, no sure thing to improve, right? Those are concerns, but you have a lot of just solid baseball players in there, and I think that's important, right? Left field, Alex Verdugo is a solid player, right? He's not great, he's solid, right? Gleyber Torres is a pretty good player. Rizzo is at least a solid player. He's at least going to be a good defender at first. You'll see what you get with the bat. Stanton is, at this point, pretty outright bad because he doesn't attribute any value anywhere right now if he's not hitting. But he does have the best offensive pedigree of that group. He is the only other MVP not named Aaron Judge on that roster. So that does have some merit here, I believe. Looking at LeMahieu, even last year, he was just solid. Good defense at third, 101 WRC plus. You'll take it. Like, if he was that for the 2024 team, I'll take it, right? Like, that's fine with me. Volpe, he may not be able to hit. We don't know if he's going to get better offensively, but he can field and he can run, right? Like, if he's your 9 hitter, maybe he's not the star player we hoped he was, but he's a solid player, right? Like, he's better than what you've been used to running out at shortstop, or at least since, you've had Didi fall off. Looking at the rest of that outfield, right? Like, you have Judge in center, you have Soto and right. Those two guys are superstars. There's 2 superstars, and then a lot of, they're probably solid players, but a lot of these guys have the opportunity to be good players next year. The 2 guys I think I'm going to hyper-focus on for 2024, the 2 guys who I think will set the tone of the New York Yankees, I believe it's going to be Alex Verdugo, and I believe it is going to be Anthony Volpe. If those 2 guys can play to the caliber of play that the Yankees hope they can, and I'm not saying superstar production, I'm saying if they're both 110 WRC plus hitters next year, or in that 105 to 110 range, the Yankees are going to win a lot of games. I'm going to put that out there right now. Those 2 guys, at least one of those 2, have to take a step forward in 2024, or else I figure that this team's going to look like just Judge, Soto, and then a bunch of guys that you pitch to.
Absolutely. And look, let's not ignore the fact that there are 3 players here that if they bounce back could have that similar impact. We're looking at Stanton. If he bounces back and, Boone thinks he's going to have a good year, of course he has to think that because he doesn't have much of a choice. The second one is Anthony Rizzo. And Rizzo, obviously, after that concussion, guys, he was a shell of himself. He was not the same player. He's ready to go. He's game ready. He is freaking healthy. And Rizzo, before that injury, was one of the best hitters in baseball. I don't know if you guys remember this player before that injury. And, I have the numbers here. The guy was absolutely phenomenal. So, he hit 244, 328 last season. Before that injury, my friends, he hit 305, 378 OBP, 513 slugging rate, had a 149 WRC plus, and 11 homers before that injury, and that was on May 29th, I believe. So, listen, Rizzo at the peak of his abilities, if he turns back the clock, he's ready to go. He's going to be a really good freaking player for this team. And then DJ LeMahieu, guys. DJ LeMahieu, pre and post All-Star break, pre, Dylan Lawson and post Dylan Lawson were different players. Last year, he hit 243 with a 327 OBP, 390 slugging rate. His numbers after that were like exponentially better. So keep in mind, this is not the same DJ LeMahieu we're getting. Hopefully James Rosen, helps turn back the clock for DJ, who's 35 now, and really can do a lot of good things. And so let's start off with our leadoff hitter here. Right now I have DJ LeMahieu, who they've already named as the third baseman for the Yankees next year. I have him leading off for the time being. DJ LeMahieu is a good, when he's playing well, he can get on base at a 35% clip. He can hit for a high average. He's really good with runners in scoring position. The ground balls were a little concerning last year. I'd like to see him elevate the ball a little bit more. But, this is a veteran hitter. This is a guy that when he is performing well, is as good as they come when it comes to making good contact, putting the ball in play, getting on base. I think that having him ahead of Judge and Soto gives you a lot of veteran leadership. It gives you a lot of veteran leverage. I don't like Volpe hitting leadoff yet. He has not proven to me that he can get on base at the right clip. I think he's a much better bottom half of the order hitter for the time being until he proves otherwise. You could argue that Soto could be there, but I think that having Soto 2-3, one of those slots is probably the best equation for the Yankees. Alternatively, you could put Gleyber as a leadoff hitter. He looked really sharp at leadoff last year, but for now, DJ LeMahieu is a well-documented, good leadoff hitter. I think he serves a good purpose for the Yankees. If he struggles, you can always move him out of that spot. But based on the way he finished 2023, I'm optimistic he's going to start off the season. Toe injuries behind him. Everything is good. He's healthy. I think he's going to be a fine player there. Do you have any objection to that, or do you think that DJ LeMahieu likely starts as the leadoff hitter?
So I would actually do leadoff hitters based on matchups, right? So I think Verdugo works as the leadoff hitter versus right-handed pitching, and LeMahieu versus left-handed pitching. LeMahieu was excellent against left-handed pitching this past season, and I think that would work really well for the Yankee lineup. Now, are you kind of conceding the fact that LeMahieu's not going to hit very well against righties? I mean, you're basically conceding it. I mean, he has a decent track record against righties, but I'm going back based off the past season and a career trend of success against lefties more so than against righties. I think the big thing for me right now, Alex, is, that I don't think that the lineup on opening day should look like the lineup on July 1st. I'm not saying the personnel should be different. What I'm saying is the Yankees leadoff guy on April 1st, hopefully is their leadoff guy on June 1st, or July 1st, because as you kind of alluded to, Volpe is not a candidate to lead off come opening day. As much as I like the guy, not a candidate. I don't even consider him. He's not my first, second, or third option. If you want a permanent option to open the year, I'd even try Gleyber. I'd be fine with the leading off Soto even. There are about 4 or 5 guys I'm okay leading off, and Volpe's not on that list. He has to work his way there. He's not right now. He is not a good enough hitter to do it. But you look at what Verdugo and LeMahieu have done in those certain platoon situations. They have been excellent hitters in those spots. And I would also have Grisham playing either left or center. Maybe it's just left field, right? Maybe he has to play left because Judge is playing center and Soto's playing right, or maybe you put Soto in left, Judge in right, or Stanton in right, and Grisham in center just to keep Judge off his toes. You would be able to put Grisham in against lefties because, yes, he's left-handed, but he actually hits lefties better. So I think the Yankees utilizing platoons, strategizing their lineup. Look, they change their lineup around all the time already, right? I don't know if you've seen that, the numbers on it, but the Yankees have changed their lineup a lot. Not relative to other teams, though. The Rays changed their lineup a ton. The Orioles changed their lineup a ton. Those are smart teams that get plus value out of guys who aren't that good. And I know that if you saw that report about the Jordan Hicks interest, Mark Feinsand also added that the Yankees, if they don't get Yamamoto, might pivot to doing like adding to their bullpen and shortening games. That's another thing we saw them implement last year, and the Rays have been doing that for a while. I know that's not just a traditional opener, but you remember games would be like, all right, Luke Weaver, give us 4 innings, Johnny Brito, give us 3 innings, then we close out the game in the final 2, right? Those games work different for the Yankees. When Johnny Brito was coming out of that bullpen and giving them 2 to 3 innings of work, that team was, I mean, they were dominating teams pitching wise. Like they never really gave up runs on those days because it works. When it worked for a reason. And the Yankees certainly lost. I mean, losing Brito and losing Vasquez hurts their ability to do that. But guys like Clayton Beater, who maybe aren't starters but can work in those 2 to 3 inning roles. Will Warren, definitely a guy you should look out for. I know Jack Curry mentioned him on Hot Stove. Other guys like that. Like the Yankees being a little more innovative with their pitching strategies should also reflect in their lineup as well. Being innovative is a good idea. You have your 2 superstars. You know Judge and Stoto are those guys. But you're trying to now get surplus value out of a group of position players, not a group of misfits per se, but out of a group of guys you're not sure of, right? How do I sit here and get the most out of it? How do I sit here and get the most out of that lineup? And I think innovating, platooning, all that stuff, that's how you get the most out of that lineup.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately how the Yankees are probably going to go about this. Look, if Soto is the best option to hit lead off for this team, and he gets on base at a 40+%, which he does regularly, having Judge in the number 2 spot, how many games are we going to see them start 2-0 in the first inning? You know what I mean? How many games are we going to see them have an immediate leverage? And think about what that does for the psyche of your team. Think about what that does for the confidence of your pitchers. If you start off a game 1-0, 2-0, your pitcher now feels like he has leverage. He has room to work with. He's confident. He's pitching with his best stuff in mind instead of thinking I need to limit the damage, instead of being like I have an advantage now. And I think that goes a long way towards the overall confidence of a club, especially in the playoffs. When you're up 1-0, 2-0 in the first inning, think about what that does for you. You know what I mean? Like that's difference-making stuff. So leadoff hitting, Soto, certainly an idea. I think the Yankees should be thinking about all different options here. And eventually, like last year, we really were like throwing things around so much. Every single day was a different lineup. We need to find a lineup that works and stick with it, and then actually help. You can platoon stuff and swap guys, for whatever reason, but I also think it's important for guys to get consistent reps in certain spots, so that way they know like what their goal is, what their job really is here. So the number 2 spot, this is where things get interesting. Does Judge stay in the number 2 slot, or does Soto, bat number 2 in this scenario? I think obviously, we've heard Soto wants to be in the number 3. Judge obviously is phenomenal batting in the number 2 slot. How do you see them going about that? Let's assume Soto doesn't lead off. Would you have Soto number 2 or number 3? I feel like it really doesn't matter. Maybe it's a lefty thing, or just a hitting which side. But Soto loves to spray the ball too. How would you see them kind of figuring out who the best option is, 2 and 3?
Okay, I'm just going to put the disclaimer out here, guys. This is not me looking at data and coming to a conclusion. I do that a lot on this podcast. I say like, hey, looking at this number, looking at that number, this is just vibes, guys. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Juan Soto hitting second and Aaron Judge hitting third just feels right. There is something about that just feels right. Aaron Judge has expressed an interest and a desire in that he likes hitting third. If you remember, for a little bit in 2021, they hit Stanton second and Judge third. Now, look, Stanton was a great hitter in 2021. There's no discounting that. But Soto is a better hitter than Stanton was in 2021. And oh yeah, he's left-handed, right? Brian Cashman yesterday in his presser was talking about kind of like how, yes, you have, those 2 guys you focus on in the lineup, and that's Judge and Soto. He referred to them as 8s, right? Like these guys that you have to look at. Like you can't avoid them. They're the crazy 8s in a deck of cards, right? Looking at what Juan Soto is, also, he's left-handed. Aaron Judge is right-handed. They have different platoon splits, and Soto does hit righties better than lefties, and Judge does historically hit lefties better than righties. I don't know if that was the case this past season. I know he struggled against them for a little bit, but historically speaking, right? If you're a manager, if you're a pitcher, pardon my French, if a kid is listening to this, just cover your ears for a second. The pitcher's shitting his pants when he sees those 2 guys step to the plate, and when he sees Soto, Judge, back-to-back in a lineup. Judge is the guy who's a little more aggressive in zone. Soto is the more passive hitter of the 2. Soto would work 1 billion walks. Judge would drive in 1 million runs, right? And if you're going to say, well, they're not going to pitch around Juan Soto to face Aaron Judge. Cool. They won't pitch. They'll have to pitch to Juan Soto. Good luck. Great. Good luck with that. I hope that goes as well for you as you think it's going to go, right? And here's where, ideally, if Anthony Volpe has that big year, and this is why I mentioned in the beginning, this all leads back to that point I made about if Anthony Volpe has a big year, also Verdugo, but if big is relative. I'm not saying a 150. I'm saying about a 105 to 110, right? If he has about a 110 WRC plus, right, and his OBP is around 340, and you lead him off when you have Soto, you have Volpe at first base dancing off first. You have Soto in the lineup. You have to worry about, hey, Soto's going to spit at everything I throw out of zone. And if I throw something in zone, he can kill me. And Volpe's the type of guy that can break up double plays with his speed. And then you have to pitch to Aaron Judge. Like, you can't handle that. Like, respectfully, you can't handle that. That's why I actually like the idea of leading off Gleyber, because Gleyber's crazy enough to try to steal bases. Remember early in the year where the dudes tried to, like, he got off to a crazy pace, then he hurt his hand a little bit, and he's like, maybe I shouldn't steal as much, and he started getting caught. Look, Gleyber's a wild card on the base paths, right? I understand, right? But I want to cause chaos. Alex, I want pitchers to be unnerved. I want that it's game 1 of the ALDS, the Yankees are the 1 seed, we're at home for game 1, and this is the exact opponent I want. Not because I think we can beat them. I don't know if we can beat them. But I want like an AL East team coming into Yankee Stadium, and I want their pitcher scared shitless. I want them to walk Volpe in the first at-bat. They're like, I got to make the perfect pitch. I don't want to, I don't want to load the bases. I don't want to put a runner on for Juan Soto. And Volpe's dancing off first with his little, he stands through the bag and he like kind of like jumps off. He's like super jumpy at first. You've got Soto in the lineup. He's doing his fucking shuffle every time. The crowd's fucking crazy. The guy, excuse my language. I'm sorry. I'm just, this is what this could be, right? Volpe jumping off first. Volpe, Soto in the lineup, shuffling all over. And then Judge is looming. The best hitter in baseball is watching and looming. And if Soto reaches base and you have to face Aaron Judge with nobody out and 2 runners on, I don't wish that fate upon anybody, and that's when you get that moniker of the Evil Empire. I know that the Evil Empire is the moniker you use when they spend. Maybe if they go out and get Yamamoto, you sit back and say the Evil Empire is freaking back, and if they extend Soto and do all that, right? But I mean, if the Bronx Zoo is back, if that stadium's rocking, if that's a place that nobody wants to play at, it's when you have an environment like that, when in between the first, second, and third batters, the pitcher is scared. The pitcher doesn't know what he wants to do. The pitcher doesn't know where he's going to do with the ball. The pitcher drops the ball. He balks. He's stepping off. He's like, I can't hear anything. My pitch calm. I can't hear the pitch calm. You got to unnerve these guys. And I think that this is not a data thing. This is just me talking baseball right now. You unnerve a lineup when you do something like that. Alex, what do you think?
I like the idea of chaos. You know what I mean? I like the idea. Think about how many times you saw Volpe dancing off first base, stealing second, dancing off second, and what it did for pitchers. They constantly were out of rhythm, and they give you pitches to hit. Someone on Twitter the other day goes, well, if you have Soto and Judge, batting like 2-3, like they're not going to pitch to them. I'm like, great. I'm like, you're going to walk Judge Soto and then put Rizzo up and then Gleyber up? Like, please, I beg you, put two guys on base with no outs and Rizzo and Gleyber coming up. Gleyber was one of our best hitters last year with runners in scoring position. Rizzo, last year before the injury, was one of our best players, bar none. You know what I mean? Like, God help you.
Yeah.
If you think that walking those 2 guys is the equation to defeating this lineup, you are sorely mistaken.
Imagine when Jason comes back. Imagine when Jason's leading off.
I forgot about Jason.
And he's stealing, and he's you know him, he'll steal a bunch of bases too. Imagine when Jason Dominguez comes back and he's leading off at the top of the lineup.
And
he's working walks. Right, like, I mean, good Lord. Could you imagine that Aiden obviously from our podcast, tweeted out a lineup. Dominguez, Judge, Soto, Rizzo, Gleyber, Stanton, LeMahieu, Wells, Volpe.
Beautiful.
I mean, if Stanton isn't having the year he needs to have, you throw Verdugo in there, and you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left-hander switch-hitting guys. I mean, Alex, the Yankees have an opportunity to be special this year. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. And Jason Dominguez coming back, guys, is a variable that we haven't really even discussed. Like, when he comes back, and what I like about it is they give him all the time in the world now to come back at his pace. They're not rushing him back. We need you. We need you. We need you. He can now take his time, rehabilitate, get ready, because there's a very real possibility. The insurance policy on Juan Soto is Jason Dominguez stepping in and starting in 2025. That's the insurance policy. The best case scenario is re-signing Juan Soto, letting Verdugo get the hell out of here, and having Jason Dominguez play left field. That's, I think, the best case scenario. The insurance policy obviously is a little bit different than that. But look, I think that the Yankees are going to try their best to re-sign Soto. I think that an extension is obviously going to be on the table. They're going to present him with a number before he ever gets to free agency. Now, I don't think that he's going to take it, because Scott Boras traditionally likes to take his clients to free agency, and they think that he wants to get the most money, and that's totally reasonable. Look, if the Yankees win a World Series next year, and Juan Soto has a big year, his market is going to be astronomical, like mind-blowing. The Yankees are spending. This is not the same Yankees we've seen in the last couple of years. This is the Yankees of old. This is the George Steinbrenner Yankees right now that we're seeing. The evil empire that spends their way out of adversity. I'm so glad that Hal realized that he is a billionaire and can spend this money. And the chicken tendies, $2 more. I'm damn paying it, man. If we get to see Juan Soto, I'll pay you $10 extra for the chicken tendies. That's the truth. And you know what? It's gonna cost us. But at the end of the day, we're going to see a winning product. And as Yankee fans, I don't care if I have to spend an extra $20 to see a winning product. The same price, it's going to be the same price on TV. And most of you guys are watching it on TV with the rest of us. So it's like, it's the same cost for us. I'm excited, man. This is going to be exciting. But let's keep going down the order here because we got stuck on the 2-3 just because of the excitement around Judge and Soto. But let's go into the cleanup spot. Anthony Rizzo. We can briefly touch on this. You may have a different guy here. I personally love Anthony Rizzo in the cleanup spot. One, he hits for contact real well. He's a high batting average guy when he's at the top of his game. He hit 244 with a 328, and that was basically after his numbers got dragged down after the injury. He was playing for months after that. That he obviously was not the same player. He could hit. He hit 32 homers in 2022. That was a career high, tied a career high. This guy's got the juice. I mean, he takes advantage of that short right porch in Yankee Stadium. I love Anthony Rizzo in that cleanup spot because he makes good contact. He can elevate the ball. He can pop it up and drive runners in. He can move guys on base. Like, he really is a complete, well-balanced hitter. And he's not going to strike out like an astronomical amount like Stanton. Also, the double plays are not as much of a concern. How do you think Rizzo fits into this cleanup role? Do you think he's a good fit there, or do you think maybe you prefer somebody else?
I think Rizzo's perfect because, as you mentioned, like in terms of the ability to work walks when needed, he's got that good contact skills. I think that's important when you're looking at, all right, let's try to go out and get we want guys in our lineup that, with runners in scoring position are going to put the ball in play and force action. I know that's going to, some people, they're going to take that as like, oh, you don't want guys to hit for power. I do, and Rizzo does that. Rizzo is a good mix, and I feel this way about the 5-hitter too. And I don't know who you have as a 5-hitter, but I think him and Gleyber back-to-back makes a ton of sense, right? Like, you just look at it from that perspective of, you have two hitters who, they make enough contact, they make good enough swing decisions, they hit for enough power. You want those guys up with runners in scoring position. That's who you want, right? And if you're, alternating lefties and righties, right, you can't necessarily just pitch to these guys, right? You can't just try to bring in a lefty to face Rizzo. Rizzo also hits lefties well, so you can't even try that. If you want to bring in a righty to try to neutralize Gleyber historically speaking, has hit righties well too. So, Alex, I don't know if you agree necessarily, but Rizzo at the 4-hole, I know we both agree on, but I think Gleyber hitting right after him, that top 5 of the lineup is immaculate.
Gleyber right after him. Guys, he was our second best hitter last year. I mean, Gleyber Torres in the 5 spot. I mean, he's coming off the season where he hit 273, high batting average, 347 OBP, 453 slugging rate. Look, if he runs that back at a career low, 14.6% strikeout rate, 123 WRC plus. Guys, Gleyber Torres is a great player, and as you discussed with Marino yesterday on the podcast, the Yankees aren't trying to trade him. Teams do not see him as a trade piece right now. So I do believe that Gleyber Torres is our starting second baseman next year. And guys, we saw what he can do defensively in 2022. If he can piece together what he did last year offensively and the defense he had in 2022, we're going to see a really, really great player emerge, a really well-balanced, high-quality player emerge from this kind of overarching development that we've seen him go through over the years of becoming a consistent player. The maturity of that now coming into full circle in a World Series caliber year would be a beautiful thing to see. Gleyber Torres is primed to put it all together. He is ready for it, and I think that we're going to see it this season. The Yankees now have no reason to move him. If all it's going to take is money to improve the starting rotation, why on earth are you going to trade Gleyber Torres right now and open up a weakness where you currently have a resonating strength? You know what I mean? A lot of people want to trade him out of your freaking minds, in my opinion. So, 5 spot, great for Gleyber Torres. Love that for him. Now let's go to the 6 spot where I think if you get a bounce back year from Giancarlo Stanton, then oh my God, guys, oh my freaking God. If you get even a semblance of what Giancarlo Stanton has done in the past, we are going to be a very freaking tough lineup to get through. And listen, you have Rizzo and then Gleyber, and then you have to face off against Giancarlo Stanton, who hits 30 home runs even when he's sucking eggs. This guy hits 30 home runs. He could do it in his sleep. If he plays 110 games, he's hitting 30 plus homers. That is just a fact. You get that in your lineup, and bam, like you're off to the races, man. Like this is a good scenario to be in if you're the Yankees. He's coming off a really bad year. We know now the pressure's off of him though. Now he doesn't have to be that guy in the cleanup spot. He doesn't have to be the guy. He just has to bounce back with no pressure. Everyone is going to expect Soto and Judge to carry this team. You have Stanton batting 6th. No one gives a rat's ass about him anymore. He has no pressure to actually perform. That mental strength, that mental confidence that he's going to have from the pressure being alleviated from his shoulders, I think we're going to see a nice bounce back year from him. I think we're going to see a year where even if he hits 230, 240, has a 34% on base rate, but he hits 40 homers, I'll take that, man. I'll take the homers, man. I'll take the slugging there. And listen, I don't think we're going to see this astronomical season where he gets on base at like a 37, 38%, 40% clip and he hits 280. I think that Stanton is long gone. But listen, 240, gets on base at a 34%, hits 40 plus homers. Sign me the hell up. I think we'll see that's tremendous value for a 6-hitter in my opinion.
Yeah, I actually really like this spot because it's realistic, right? Like the Yankees aren't hitting him 7th. Sure, you could say Verdugo had a higher WRC plus last season, but they're not hitting Giancarlo Stanton 7th. And 6th is enough of a demotion to tell me that, yeah, this guy is going to end up, needing to step up a little bit. This is like, the public, from the public side of things, it's, hey, the Yankees are publicly saying this guy is not as good of a hitter as he used to be, and he needs to prove himself again. And then from the private side of things, if you're Stanton, you're right, the pressure is not there to immediately come out the gates firing. There is a cushion of like, hey, month of April, get whatever swing adjustments you made, stick to it. Trust your process, trust your adjustments. A lot of this too, I love that James Rosen's part of this team now because he is the type of guy that I think is more reaffirming than people give him credit for. He is a guy that, Max Kepler, Byron Buxton, so many different guys have talked about as people that, how do I put this? As people that have, as a person who has been a really good, just positive guy in that clubhouse, right? I know I'm kind of stuttering a little bit. I apologize. But he's a very positive force in that clubhouse. He's very reaffirming. That's good for Giancarlo Stanton. That's exactly what Giancarlo Stanton needs. That's exactly what Giancarlo Stanton needs, especially in a year where it's New York. This market's tough. Alex, if it's April, look, I'm not saying this to say I'm above it all. If it's April 30th, his WRC plus is 80, we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be talking about it every single day. It's going to be part of every single podcast. Like, when is Stan going to heat up? Stan's got to heat up. Even if they're playing well, it's going to be, hey, we're playing well, but Stan's got to heat up. If we're playing poorly, that's why we're playing poorly. And part of it is because they won't cut bait with Stan. You know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of outside noise. The team's going to need to be behind him. If they trust him, they have to be behind him, and he's got to trust any adjustments he makes this winter.
Exactly, man. I mean, look, Stanton, a bounce back year from him would open up the freaking floodgates of this offense's production. So let's look at the 7th spot. Now we have Alex Verdugo here. Now Verdugo is historically an above average hitter. Last year, slightly below average, 98 WRC plus his lowest since 2018. But here's another thing that people are kind of disregarding. He's a durable player. He's played a minimum of 140 games for 3 consecutive years. Like, this is a really good, player to have because he's not going to miss that much time. I think that goes far for a team that really struggled with injuries last season. Now, I do believe he can get on base at a 34% clip and above that. And I think his batting average is going to hover around 20, I would say maybe 260 to 280. And that's good, right? Aaron Judge wants that. He said it. We want higher batting averages. We want to be able to hit with runners in scoring position. And Verdugo, a lefty bat. You're going to see him good average, probably will increase his on-base percentage, and he's a gamer. Look, the Yankees love this guy. They have been talking about him for years now. Cashman said, we've had conversations with the Red Sox about him for 2 years. He's also in the final year of arbitration, but look, this is a guy who is going to take over in left field. He's a good defender. He's a gamer, and he likes the freaking pressure of being in the Bronx. Like, he can handle it. Like, he's going to look at adversity. He's a character. He is passionate. Like, look, he's done some things that are very speculative. I'm not going to touch on, the stuff that I'm talking about as a pure baseball player. He's a good guy to have in terms of good defense. He has offensive upside. He can take advantage of the short right porch in Yankee Stadium. And ultimately, he's a guy that has the character, baseball character to face that adversity in the Bronx, face that criticism, and bounce back and have a good day. And I think that that's what the Yankees are looking for. He's a gamer. So, what are your thoughts on Alex Verdugo as a baseball player and really what he brings to this team in the 7 hole? Talk about a replacement for Harrison Bader offensively in the outfield. Verdugo's significantly better than Harrison Bader, and he's a lefty. So I think that that's ultimately a great thing.
Yeah, and, big thing here, kind of like with Stanton, right? Like, you have to challenge Verdugo. Verdugo was publicly challenged by his manager, Alex Cora, prior to 2023 season, and it worked for the first half. And then he kind of had a falling out with Cora. very ugly, like public divorce almost, right, of the player and the manager. And look, I'm not sitting here and saying that Alex Cora is not a respected manager. Alex Cora is one of the most respected managers in baseball. He gets buy-in from his players. But this is a new organization. Aaron Boone is a different kind of manager. And again, James Rosen, and my pen just exploded, but James Rosen is, again, a very supportive guy. And I think that's the type of environment Verdugo needs. Verdugo needs to be an environment where, it's like, hey, trust your swing. You're going to get ripped by the media. The media is going to rip you when you struggle. That's a fact of life. He played in Boston. He's used to it, right? But he's got to be, the Yankees from a private standpoint, from inside that clubhouse, have to be able to protect their players. Look, Aaron Boone is going to publicly say, we know we can get, he's going to say, we know we can get Doogie right back on track. Something like that. He'll say a quote exactly like that on May 1st if he's struggling, right? But the team has to be behind him. Again, if you're acquiring a player, if that player's in your lineup, if that player's on your roster, communication and reaffirmation. These are two things that are important to an athlete's success. And the only way that the Yankees are going to see guys take steps forward if they trust these players, if they tell these players to trust their adjustments. I think Verdugo is a guy who could benefit from letting it rip a little bit more, taking a little more of aggressive approach to plate, swing a little bit harder. He has good max bat speeds. Like his max bat speed numbers are pretty good. He's shown an ability to hit the ball really hard. He had a new max exit velocity this past season of 112.4 miles an hour. What the hell, right? Like if you look at the power numbers, it doesn't look like it's there. He's hit 37 home runs over the last 3 years. At Yankee Stadium, he would have hit 50 according to StatCast. So, that's a profile where, you look at the numbers from 2021 and they're very average, like a 100 or 101 WRC plus. You had 13 home runs to that. That's more of a 105 to 110. This is a guy who has good contact skills. He has a very spotty track record off the field. There's no doubt about it, right? Not just with the manager, whether it was his Dodgers days in the minor leagues, he has a very spotty track record off the field. He is going to be a guy who is scrutinized constantly. The Yankees are going to have to be behind him, and the Yankees are going to have to, again, reaffirm a guy who's coming off of a down year and has been traded. Hey, here's what you got to do. And I think Gleyber is a good example of when that goes right? If you think of Gleyber's mid-career lull, things got a lot better after. It didn't happen for Verdugo. Can the Yankees do it for Verdugo? And then most importantly, make the Red Sox regret it.
Yeah, that's ideal. But making the Red Sox regret every trade they make with us is definitely the preference here. Let's talk about the final two guys here. Austin Wells and Anthony Volpe, guys. I am a huge, and you as well, are a huge fan of Austin Wells. Austin Wells, wow. Okay, let's talk about this guy. 24 years old, obviously profiles to be our starting catcher next year, platooning with Jose Trevino. He hit 229, right? 257 OBP, 486 slugging rate. Good slugging rate. Hit 4 homers with 13 RBIs. But guys, over the final 2 weeks, he started to get it together. He started to figure it out. He hit 289 with a 161 WRC plus and hit all 4 of his homers. And I think he had 11 RBIs in that span in the final 2 weeks of the season. He started to really get a hold of okay, I'm starting to see the pitching better. He has that lefty bat. He pulls the baseball. If he even gives us a 100 WRC plus offensively from the catcher position, the Yankees are going to be so good. Having a good offensive catcher who can also be as a competent defensive one, think about what that does for a team. Like a good defensive and offensive catcher. You see what JT Realmuto does for the Phillies. Like you see, what happens when you have a good offensive catcher. Wells has that level of upside. The Yankees took him off the table for the Padres. I guarantee the Padres asked if he was available because a catcher of that magnitude, of that upside, a guy that's had a double-digit walk rate his entire minor league career, he's going to figure it out. He's going to get better. And guys, he stayed down in Tampa after the season ended to continue working on his craft. He's going to be there with Volpe before you even know it. A month before, he's going to be working with Volpe, working with Peraza, working with these youngsters. And he now has the support of some of the best offensive players in the game to help him get to where he needs to be. Austin Wells, guys, is my breakout candidate of this upcoming season. I think Volpe could be tremendous, but Wells could be truly special. I don't think people really fully understand how good this player could be. What are you thinking about Wells from the catcher perspective, the context of that, being in the 8-hole? I know you can flip-flop Wells and Volpe, but I think Volpe at 9 actually makes a lot of sense. Wells at the 8 spot with his power, if he hits well, he hits double-digit home runs next year, it's going to be a freaking problem.
Yeah, so I think Austin Wells has the opportunity, as you mentioned, to really pop off next year. I'm very confident in Austin Wells for 2024. I think he's going to be a 110 WRC plus hitter. And from the left-handed side, What he can do against right-handed pitching, oh man. Like, I mean, the glove just has to be solid. He's actually decently athletic base running wise. So you can kind of expect a little bit of base running value, maybe a couple of, steals here and there. But, I mean, Trevino hits lefties well. Wells hits righties well, pun intended. He's a good hitter, man. He's all he's done in his career is hit, and all he's going to do next year, well, he's going to play some good defense as well, I hope. But what he's going to do next year is do what he's done at every stage of his career, and that's freaking mash.
Oh, goodness gracious. I mean, I can't. Can we just fast forward to the start of the season already? I mean, Volpe in the 9th spot, obviously 209, 283 OBP last year. He's only 22 years old. And he hit 21 homers with 24 stolen bases. We know what he can do. What I love most about Volpe, and I'll finish it here. What I love most about Volpe is he looked at those numbers just like we looked at those numbers, just like every analyst looked at those numbers, and he said, that's not good enough for me. And I know for a fact, you don't even have to see it. You don't even have to watch it or hear it from anybody else to know that Anthony Volpe is obsessed with being great. Anthony Volpe is obsessed with being a New York Yankee. If there's anyone to bet on to be a great New York Yankee, it's Anthony freaking Volpe, because that kid wants to be better than anybody else, and he has the work ethic. They'd have to kill him to stop him from getting better and working on his craft. That year of experience last year, guys, it was a down season. Him being great wouldn't have changed anything. It was essential to him getting better, because he now is going to come back. He knows exactly what he has to work on. He's in contact with the coaches. This is what I have to work on. This is what I have to improve upon. He's going to come back a much better player. I fully believe that. I think that we're going to see Anthony Volpe take a big step forward. He just won a Gold Glove, for God's sake. He has set the record, the Yankee franchise record for outs above average, or whatever, defensive runs saved, one of those two. You look at exactly what this kid is made up of. He's made up of greatness, man. There's greatness in his blood. He wants to be that great, and nothing is going to stop him from becoming that. If there was someone to bet on, people talking shit about Anthony Volpe, people questioning his abilities, you're going to be brutally awakened when he pops off this upcoming season, because I truly believe that when he hits that consistency, keep in mind, he is 22 years old. He is a freaking kid, guys. He is a kid. If you fast forward to 2 years from now, he's going to be a really, really good player. And I think the Yankees are just waiting for that. Having a player that could break out at that level, batting 9th in the order, because we have so much other great talent elsewhere. I mean, talk about a great problem to have. I am ecstatic about that. So, guys, always happy to hear your perspectives below on this order. We took about 36 minutes here to break it all down for you, why we think these things make sense, why we think this guy should be there, this guy should be over there, and why some of these players are going to have bounce-back seasons. I mean, I don't think you're going to find a better detailed breakdown of that. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like and subscribe. You got the daily episodes, so much great content coming on the way. Don't even doubt it. You want to be on the FSY train now before it takes off, because we're not coming back. We're shooting to the freaking moon. We want you guys there to come with us, and it's going to be really exciting over the next couple weeks as we continue to grind out great content for you guys and only get better. That's our goal, to provide the best for you at no cost at all. So appreciate the subscription, and obviously the comment section below, having good conversation, always much appreciated. So as I said before, have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.